Hello, folks. I have a free book this weekend until Monday, Infamous LA Murders. My most recent book that I have written, been out for a few weeks. I want people to read it, and then please leave me a review. The more reviews, obviously, the more books I sell, and I have quite a few on Amazon. Not just true crime, but I have politics. I have also pictorial, kids books, a little bit of everything. You can check it out. Over 75 books and counting. 75 books and counting. Let me give you a little sample here. Interesting picture I picked here. An old one here of an individual killing this female here, a serial killer that was over 100 years ago. Here it is, Infamous LA Murders, Los Angeles. They've had some doozies in the last 100 years or so. The preface is right there. And these are some of the chapters I've talked about. The Manson killings, obviously, with Terrence Shate and others with the cult killings. And a recent release of one of the Manson witches, actually, after 50 years. Very controversial. Many people think she should stay the rest of her life, especially with the horrific killing she was a part of. The Wonderland murders, a controversy with John Holmes. How much was he involved in? The Menendez brothers. Some people believe they should be released after killing their family members after doing over 30-some years. O.J. Simpson, he's a free man who's acquitted, convicted on the civil trial, but he did other time in Nevada for stealing property, and he's now a free man. Death of Bobby Kennedy, assassination 1968, June 68 in Los Angeles, and the Ambassador Hotel. RFK Jr. recently had a close call with an individual posing as a U.S. Marshal a few days ago, not too far from where his father was assassinated. History almost repeated itself. Bugsy Siegel, infamous mobster, he was gunned down. And of course, one of the most infamous unsolved homicides, the Black Dahlia, the horrible death of Elizabeth Short, where she was dismembered and cut in half and her body parts was found, and people thought it was a mannequin. Horrible, horrible images out there, and to this day has never been solved. So if you like these topics and others, you can go back to my library, which I'm calling it. Like I said, I also have Psycho Killers, pictorials. These are books that I have traveled throughout the country, the Outer Banks, the Mid-Atlantic, Alaska. It's the land of the midnight sun. It's a personal story, a prequel from my law enforcement career, what I experienced out there working at a fishing cannery. I almost wanted to work on a crab vessel before the show made it popular. The most dangerous catch, extremely dangerous work out there. Some of the characters I ran into, even Hell's Angels, and I talked about some of my experiences, what happened out there, even a gun being pulled on me. Interesting story there. Of course, RFK Jr., biggest X factor in the 2024 election, could run as a third-party candidate and shock the establishment, knocking out Joe Biden as incumbent. No incumbent has won in the last 40 years who was a strong third-party candidate. Anderson did it to Carter, Perot did it to Bush Sr., and then can RFK Jr. do it again to Biden? We shall see. Outlaws, if you like 1%er stuff. Mass shootings, I'll give my assessment, some of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history, and some solutions, how to stop them from happening again. Things we can do to fortify our schools, public locations, things that we have to do to minimize the mass casualties that occur when these madmen or these individuals decide to cause this kind of horrific carnage. Hell's Angels, Miami's history with the mafia, Chicago crime bosses, the rise of a narco empire, CJNG. Very interesting read about Elmencho Cervantes. He himself was in the United States illegally, was a heroin trafficker, was deported, went to law enforcement in the Jalisco region, and then joined the cartels and rose to the rank, the top of CJNG, Jalisco New Generation. The most wanted drug lord in Mexico and the U.S. His bounty is double of El Chapo Guzman. When he was apprehended, his is $10 million. $10 million. Elmencho Cervantes. If you like politics, of course, Gaddafi. I talk about my background with ATF Mexico and the drug cartels. The reality after Operation Fast and Furious, the gun walking debacle of letting guns going to Mexico, a bonehead operation, which ended up costing a lot of people in ATF their jobs. People were demoted and learned a lot of lessons learned. But at the same time, Mexico itself is very corrupt, and they themselves need to deal with their corruption to help us have an equal partner fighting the war on drugs. I tell us truth on both sides. The issues we're having with Lopez Obrador, he's definitely a socialist. His policies of hugs for thugs is not working. He's trying to be soft with cartel leadership, so hopefully they won't be as violent in Mexico, but the homicides are as high as ever before, and his policies are a failure and also hurting the United States. Open borders doesn't work. My autobiography, ATF Undercover, of course, is also available on Audible now. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of ATF, my life, talk about my cases, not just war stories, but also about waste, fraud, and abuse, and solutions to some of the gun problems, gun violence, and things going on in our country that we can look at and do differently. Biker wars. I'd also do fiction. I also wrote about winning Wimbledon against all odds. Interesting about an American becoming the first qualifier to win Wimbledon. So it's a fascinating story, in-depth look at tennis, about the scoring, also the construction of points, but also about his life and how he almost quit tennis and at the end became a Wimbledon champion. So if you like that, definitely, it's for any tennis enthusiast or any sports enthusiast, really. It's a great story. Bikers, again, Scientology, cults, a lot of that. Mexico, Timothy McVeigh, the worst U.S. terrorist, domestic terrorist in U.S. history. Many others. I mean, the list goes on and on here. Again, another sports one, tragic death of champion Hector Camacho, the rise out of Spanish Harlem to his tragic death in Puerto Rico. Great champion. Unfortunately, drugs took its toll on him, his vices, and eventually I think it was his own doing. And then, of course, being involved in that element got him killed. Where's Jimmy Hoffa? That's still a question. Where is he buried? If we're going to find out. And who killed Hoffa? We may never know. We may never know. And some of these books are longer than others. You have some short reads here, and then you got longer reads. Some of these books I've put together short stories, and they're about maybe about 300 some pages, 400 pages. And I'm working more and more. I'm doing them with shout out to Sean Milo, voice actor, ATF Undercover. It's on Audible, and I'm working on releasing the most dangerous crime syndicates of our time to be released. This will be the book out here. More about narco wars, the American mafia, the worst killers and tyrants of the century. I might be working that one next to do an Audible after the release of that one. That will be another long one over 7 hours. So that should be done in a few months, hopefully, maybe early next year. How I wrote and published 50 books in 1 year. That's right, 50. Actually, it's at over 75 in a year and a half. Maybe I'll do a follow-up for that one. Lessons learned for those writers. Be consistent, be disciplined, have a passion, find things you want to write about, but stay in a schedule, either do in the mornings or afternoon. Don't be skipping days, and you'll get the work done. But have something you really are passionate to write about, and the stuff will flow out. If it's not coming out that way, you're not going to be a passionate writer. And it's important to have patience, and sometimes it's good also to take a break. If you're frustrated or if you're pushing hard, take a little break. It'll help your writing. I was also out there with the Beltway Killers, the DC snipers in DC. Talk about my own perspective out there in October 2002. 3 weeks in October. The shocking story of Mohammed Namavo, who wreaked havoc in the region, killing over 10 in the region, over 17 overall, nationwide shooting spree that shocked the country and the world. A lot of books here, like I said, folks. El Chapo, Violence in Canada, Victor Bout, the world's most dangerous arms dealer, the worst trade Biden could have done. Almost probably as bad as what happened recently with the Iranians. $66 billion of frozen assets released for 5 Americans, exchanged 5 Iranians. Horrible deal. This was just as bad for Brittany Griner, a professional basketball player, wrongly incarcerated by the Russians, by Putin, for Victor Bout, the merchant of death, the Lord of War himself, captured an elaborate DEA sting in Thailand. I write in details about it. Check it out if you don't know much about this. I also talk about some of the rivalry within ATF and the FBI. Some things that I have seen personally in other cases. Like anywhere else in any outfit, there's always rivalries, and ATF and FBI have had their issues. FBI sees ATF as a little brother in DOJ, and there's always issues, no doubt. More pictorials, cool pictures, Virginia, Las Vegas, Mob City, the history of the mob. With Bugsy Siegel, I talked about earlier, in the rise of Las Vegas, his assassination, and what happened after that. Also, with his assassination, that has also never been solved, with also the Black Dahlia. I also have here Joe Biden, one and done, seeing him as a one-term president, many factors in there, also including the rise of RFK Jr. Well, most likely he is fed up with the DNC, Democratic National Committee, causing him issues that he can't debate Joe Biden. He won't be able to campaign Iowa and New Hampshire, and if he does, he loses all those delegates. The system he's saying is rigged, and he leaves him no choice but to run a third party, and that's bad news for Joe because he's going to lose a lot of votes that way. So it appears with his failed policies, the open border, and other issues going on, and his own faculties, people questioning him, he's able to function. Appears Joe Biden is another Jimmy Carter, and be a one-and-done president. Also about Mohammed Salaman, Kim Jong-un, little rocket man himself, now trying to have ties with Putin. That could be a big problem for the United States and our allies, especially in the region for South Korea and Japan. Things to look at. Kim Jong-un is a threat, like his whole family has been, starving his people, controlling his people, and wasting money. A complete tyrant, dictator, and typical for this family, just like Kim Jong-il and his grandfather. Xi Jinping, in the same boat, a brutal dictator, communist. His whole family was brutalized, and yet he has somehow embraced the CCP and what he's doing there in Hong Kong, and what he did with Tibet, what he's done with ethnic Muslims. I call it a genocidal dictator. And I'll read more about what he's done and the issue he represents to the United States and around the world and for our allies. Nicolas Maduro, a narco-terrorist, dictator, he could be another Noriega. He could end up being extradited to the United States, maybe another Operation Just Cause going in there. He stole their last election. He's not a legitimate president. He's a dictator. He's a thug. He's killing those who want their freedom. And especially Miami, you know a lot of Venezuelans and what's going on there. Similar to Fidel Castro. Castro and the mob, the history of Castro. He's passed away years ago, but Raul, his brother, is still alive. Soon to pass away. He's in, I think, close to 90 or already 90. Doesn't look well. Could there be a change also in Cuba and in Venezuela, and finally restore the constitution of both these countries? Those are things I talk about. And of course, the poor battle. If you've seen Zelensky at the United Nations speaking about freedom versus tyranny, the battle for Ukraine, his people are suffering immensely. Putin is a war criminal. He needs to be extradited. People, they deserve their freedom, and we will hopefully, the United States, do what we can to push out Putin and let Ukraine be a great ally and a free nation as they rightly deserve, and not a puppet of Russia. And that's what Putin wants. He wants to create puppet nations that he can control. He wants to be another Russian Tsar, because he's no communist. He has $1 billion palace in the Black Sea. He likes money, but he wants power and control. He's a dictator, a ruthless dictator. Other books here dealing with gangs, LA gang wars, prison gangs, merchants of death, doing firearms trafficking. Back in my background, talk about immense cases of trafficking, one percenters. Again, Putin's tyranny, what he's done to his people, what he's done to those who are dissidents. Don't be drinking hot tea if you're in Russia, that's for sure. And definitely don't be a journalist near an open window. They've had a lot of these so-called accidents where they get slipped out and thrown out. Very dangerous to be a critic of Vladimir Putin in Russia. And we did a book on my grandfather's paintings, oil paintings. He had retired. He was a politician in Cuba. He came here and created a new life for himself, for his family. I spent a lot of time with him, and I do remember as a young boy, 4 years old, watching him paint and going to the art shows, selling his paintings, and I really enjoyed and have quite a few of them in my house hanging now. So I did a pictorial book on these beautiful oil paintings that I have throughout my house, through my other family's homes, and we took pictures and we put pictorial, beautiful oil paintings. If you really enjoy oil paintings, please check that book out. Travel books from D.C., New York, Virginia, Niagara Falls, Las Vegas, Chicago, South Dakota, and of course the picture books we have done, and also the kids books I did with my daughter. Best Snow Day Ever, My Day at the Fair. My daughter's a big dancer, The Princess and the Ballerina. She loves dancing, and How the Pegasus Saved Christmas. All right, folks, if you like these books, check them out. And remember, for the next few days, I have the book Infamous LA Murders. Infamous LA Murders is free until Monday. Please check it out. And if you like it, please leave me a good review. All right, folks. Until next time, thank you.